open government of the Republic and the Central American integration, and also as research of the political school electronic. And so I wish to thank our friend Janina, because she will be giving us all of the support throughout the panel by being the moderator. And we have experts in the panel, but I leave her to introduce all our panel members for this afternoon. Thank you so much, and the floor is yours. Thank you, Roxana, and I take advantage to greet each and every one of you. It's a pleasure to share space with Billy and with Rodrigo in social innovation and business, a new look of how we can see development and others as they were commenting. I am the director with the potential of knowledge for innovation, where precisely we have been working actively in how we generate the knowledge can serve as a basis for this. And since from the university, we're all working and redesigning our imminent and have served as a device to listen to us, to understand the needs that are there, because we understand that as a region, we have to think in expanding. I also want to tell you that we have production for development directorate, where there's funds precisely for development of entrepreneurships and also for research and development, joint research and development department for all of Central America. So I take advantage of telling you that we can connect this way. So entering into our topics, I want to say that when we see the indexes of innovation worldwide, and they classify the results of the innovative ecosystem, we see that our region is still in the process. And I think the economies are the ones that started in 2021, and you see the more than 80 indicators that have measures such as the political arena, education, and knowledge. And our region continues placing itself in spaces that can improve. Costa Rica is in position 66, El Salvador 96, Guatemala 101, and Dominican Republic 93. Nicaragua doesn't appear, and Belize doesn't appear. It's through Sempromipe they presented the study of the evolution of SMSE in the region, where they analyzed different indexes, and I want to show you which are these enabling conditions for the processes. And based on the findings is that the entrepreneurial community has started to grow in the region, but these models are working to grow in innovation. We have entrepreneurial opportunities, and we see how new products, new services, new processes can be established that respond to the dynamics, and besides, it has a high component that allows added value. In this sense, the fundamental work is to work with regards to innovation and growth and development, because we're at a time in our region that the natural resources are a red flag. More than 30 million people are struck by famine or hunger, and also the effect of the pandemic and climate change, and all these things very worrisome. Therefore, the topic that gets us here together is going to make us think how we can relate from the productive units and how this dynamic is done. Many times when we think, what are these enabling conditions, we give the responsibility or the fault to the governments, when we really need to have interaction between the different stakeholders as academia, civil society, private sector, and from these social topics, and they're more evidence and precisely that interaction, that constant interaction. In this sense, Billy And also, Rodrigo are going to be accompanying us in this encounter that marks the fourth Think Emprende encounter, how to scale, how social innovation in business can also contribute. And for me, we also want to share these goals committed with these new ways of production to reflect on the practice and create new businesses and in its reality can then clarify and accompany the processes of the territory. Social innovation in businesses, it means new businesses, processes, and others, but not only generates economic profitability, but also makes small businesses grow. And with this opening, we want to talk about the production that we have. And please use the chat to ask questions and comments so that we can have a conversation going on in the next hour that we will be working. I'm accompanied by a very high level panel. We have Pili Luna. She is executive director and founder of Post Honduras. She's designer, photographer, and philanthropist, and she's a creator of Voz Honduras brand, and she will talk about what it is about and her proposal and her business model. And she has also been able to create a, a key innovation, particularly for the region, and the first bastion of leather in Honduras, and she's involved with the Central American Bank for Economic Integration, and she has also received many awards and the Rental Award 2020 and in 2021 she also received an award for the business. Also, she has participated in multiple conferences, and Pili is a very well-known person. It's a pleasure as well as in her work. She has really designed at the Ibero-American level. Welcome, Felipe, and it's a pleasure to get with you today. You have
Muchísimas gracias por la invitación.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for such a wonderful introduction, Janina. I'm going to add a little bit there because I know that I have already initiated the first leather area in Costa Rica. We did it in Punta Arenas, an alliance with Action Fund, and we have just trained 69 women, the fishermen from the region. And basically what I do is to rescue a marine coastal resource which was being lost, it was being thrown into the ocean or served for fishing the lobster, which is the skin of the fish when the fish is made into fillet. And so I already have a patent to transform that skin. And what I do is I trade the people of the coastal community so that it becomes in a capture of a fish that we eat as protein and food, and it becomes in a double income because they're also generating protein, and it's an exotic product and well sold in international markets. And this brings a new way of generating resources, a new way of contributing to the environment. And I think that any entrepreneurship that has an impact needs to have like the center or in the core, the human person or the people. This is what we do. This is why we train. This is why we try to integrate not only on Honduras, but we started to do so at the regional level. And very proud and very happy to share that we're already working in Costa Rica. And these types of projects are scalable, of great impact, and not only economic, but also environmental and social, and also transparency, because what we do is a traceability is
y lo que queremos
nowadays a very
llegar a
important
hacer es
issue.
que
And what we want to
cuando
end up by
el cliente
doing
final
is when
compre esa piel,
the end
vamos a
customer
eliminar los
buys that
intermediarios.
skin, we're going to
Entonces, esa
eliminate
piel
the
se
third
le va a cobrar
parties. So that
directamente a
skin
la
is
persona
going to
que
go
la
and be
fabricó.
given directly
Cada
to the
piel
person
de
that
pescado
manufactured
es distinta,
every
es
fish skin
única, es como
of the fish is
nosotros,
different,
somos
it's
todos
unique,
distintos
it's
porque somos seres
like
vivos.
us.
Y
We're
esa es la
live
meta de que
persons
esta gente se
and we're
empodere al
different. And
nivel
this is a
de
goal
poder
that these
tener
people become empowered in order
un
to be able to have
ingreso y no únicamente un
income,
ingreso, sino que
not only
conlleva
income,
muchísimas
but it also leads
otras
to
aristas como
many other
capacitación en el tema
areas such as
económico, de
training in the
inversión,
economic
formarlos
part
como
and
una
investment,
cooperativa
educate
y
them
etcétera.
in
Creo que ya
make
hablé
what,
bastante, yo creo que le toca a
etc. I
Rodrigo.
think I spoke a lot, I
Muchísimas
think,
gracias, Pili. No,
and
acá
now
lo
it's
importante es
Rodrigo's
conocernos y
turn.
bueno, yo sé que
And
con
thank
esta
you. It's a
introducción que
pleasure
nos
to
has hecho
meet
los
you. And I know
primeros
that with
minutos,
the
sé que me van a
introduction
tener
that you
muchas
made,
preguntas porque
I
realmente ya
know
nos
you're
has
going to
contado
have
parte
many
de lo que puedes
questions
hacer con
that
esta
are going to
traducción
come from the
y cómo
floor,
realmente
and
oportunidades
how
sostenibles y donde
the
compartimos
sustainable
ese desarrollo,
opportunities
¿verdad?
that
No se
we
queda
share,
solamente en el
we share that
crecimiento para un grupo,
development is
sino que
not
realmente se
only in
traduce en
growth,
mejores
but
condiciones
also
como
translates
sociedad.
into
Y bueno, voy a aprovechar también
social
para
work. And I'm
presentar
going to
a
take
don
advantage to
Rodrigo
introduce
también Tona,
Rodrigo,
quien es el director
Rodrigo
ejecutivo
Tona,
de
who is
Ternovo.
executive
Él es un
director of
empresario, inversionista y
Ternova. He's
académico
an
también salvadoreño.
entrepreneur
En el
and also
2020 fue
Salvadorian.
nombrado
In
como
2020, he
campeón de
was
sostenibilidad por la revista
appointed
Pucherse.
as
También ha
he
sido
got an award,
reconocido como el
and
empresario
he's
más
also
influyente
known
del
as the
2019
most
por la
influencing
revista Derechos de
entrepreneur in
Negocios. Es
2019
ingeniero
of
industrial de formación con
business
un máster en administración
magazine,
empresarial de la Universidad
and
Estatal de Carolina
in the
del Norte. Es
State
parte
University
también
of
del
North
programa de
Carolina
liderazgo de Harvard
and of the
y está
leadership program
certificado
from Harvard. He is
en
certified
fusiones
in
y adquisiciones internacionales.
in
Ha trabajado como CEO
international
de Ternova,
acquisitions and
llegando
in
a
mergers.
más de
He
40
has worked
países,
in
20
Ternova,
oficinas,
and
operaciones
he
en
works in more
Centroamérica,
than 40
Norteamérica, el sudeste
countries,
asiático
and he
también,
works
como
with
equipo
different
de liderazgo
offices
de
in Latin
colaboradores.
America and
Así que
Asian
la verdad
countries.
tenemos voces
So the truth
expertas y
is
muy
that we
autorizadas
have
para compartirnos sobre el tema que tenemos hoy.
very expert
Bienvenido,
and
Rodrigo.
authorized voices, and welcome,
Mil
Rodrigo.
gracias. Encantado,
Thank you.
encantado de estar
It's a
aquí con
pleasure to
Pili,
be
con
here
ustedes y
with
muchas gracias
Billy
por la
and with
invitación.
you, and thank you so much
A
for
mí me
your
gustaría también,
invitation.
don Rodrigo, que
I
así
would
como Pili
also
nos hizo ya
like
una introducción
Rodriguez and
acerca de qué se trata
Billy already made
Voz
an
Honduras y
introduction
los diferentes
of what
proyectos
both
e
Honduras
iniciativas,
is
usted
and the
también nos
different
pudiera comentar
projects
más
and
a profundidad.
initiatives. Maybe you could comment a bit about your business.
Familiar, fundada por dos hermanos en un origen muy noble, en donde arrancan un proceso
Where
literalmente
there is a
haciendo una
process
bolsa plástica a
literally
mano con un
making a
extrusor, con una
plastic
máquina que les
bag by
habían dado en
hand
San
with
Juan
an
Pago
extruder
y con un cuchillo
and
caliente
with
calentando
a
esto en
hot
una candela
knife
y en una mesa de
and
madera
with a
ponían un
candle
pelito de plástico y lo
and
cortaban
a
a
wooden
mano
table. They
y ahí
used to cut
empieza
them
esa
by
revolución
hand.
de
And this
sensación
is
con este
where the
material nuevo
revolution started. What do we do
en
with
los
this
años
new
70.
material
Y
during the
ese espíritu
70s?
emprendedor nos llevó
And this
eventualmente a tener una
entrepreneurship
organización
spirit
que se
brought us
dedica
to
ahora a
have an
ocupar la
organization
innovación y
that
la
dedicates
sostenibilidad
to
para crear
use
negocios de
innovation and
impacto.
sustainability to create
Tenemos
impact business.
dos hubs de
We
manufactura,
have
uno basado en
two
El Salvador,
hubs on
con 5 plantas de
manufacturing, one
producción.
in El
Tenemos una
Salvador
planta de
with five
producción propia
production
en
plants.
Vietnam,
We have
Hanoi,
our own
en el norte de
production
Vietnam,
plant
en
in
Hanoi.
Vietnam, in the northern part
Atendemos
in
clientes
Hanoi,
alrededor de 48
and we
países en el
have
mundo
clients in
y hemos venido
approximately
expandiendo
48
nuestro
countries
modelo
around
no
the world,
solamente de
and
empaque
another one
sostenible,
in Spain,
sino de
not
tratar de
only
participar en
sustainable
distintas
packaging,
industrias
but
a
to
lo largo de
try
la
to
cadena de valor
participate in
en
different
donde podamos generar impacto.
industries along the value
El
chain where we can
corazón de
generate
lo que
impact,
nosotros
the core
hacemos,
of
y
what we
me
do.
encantó mucho cómo lo puso Pili,
And
nosotros
I
creemos
love
que
the
es un
way
negocio del
Billy did it.
futuro.
We think that
Ya
this
no
is a
es más en
business of
ver
the
un
future.
producto como
It's
un
not in
producto de
selling or
viejo, sino
seeing
estamos
the
buscando
product
mejorar
as a
el precio,
product
sino
and
que
such.
lo que
We are
estamos buscando es
looking
crear propuestas de
is
valor que
that to
sean
create
sostenibles en el
value
tiempo.
proposals
Y
that are
para que una propuesta de
sustainable in
valor
time, and so
tenga
that a
realmente
value
la capacidad de
proposal
perdurar en el
really
tiempo, lo que
has
tenemos que
the
hacer es
capacity
pasar de negocios
uh,
a humanos. Y el concepto detrás de la
to
estrategia
be
nosotros
sustainable
es
in time
to human, es cómo ponemos
is through
al
human,
humano
is the way
al centro
how
de todo lo que
we
hacemos.
put the human being in the
Hola,
center of what we're
Sí,
doing.
¿me
don
siguen
Rodrigo, le
escuchando?
estamos escuchando.
Yes, we're listening.
Perdón, pues por alguna
Excuse
razón
me.
aquí a mi lado me
So
botó.
for
Entonces,
some
por esa
reason,
perspectiva
I couldn't hear it. So from this
todas las propuestas que
perspective
tenemos y todos los
is that
negocios
all
que
of the
presentamos
proposals
tienen que
that
ser
we
negocios que
have
aplicemos la innovación y la
need to
sostenibilidad
see that
para generar
innovation
impacto.
and
Y el
sustainability are
impacto
there
o
to
la
generate
sostenibilidad
impact,
del
and
negocio nosotros
impact
lo
or the
enmarcamos en el pilar
sustainability
de
of the
las tres
business
R's
we
que tenemos que
market.
generar.
And the
El
pillars of the
impacto,
three E's,
primero
the
tenemos que generar impacto económico
first we
para
have
tener
to
sostenibilidad
generate economic impact to create sustainability.
a largo plazo. Y eso nos ha llevado a un
And this
replanteamiento que para
has
la hora de
brought
que
us
hacemos
that
un negocio en el que
for
contribuimos y
when there's a
colaboramos,
business or
somos
we
una parte
contribute and
inflexible de la
collaborate,
cadena.
we're a very
Eso
important
nos
part of
lleva
the
a
value
vincularnos
chain.
con la
We
academia, con
want
los
to link with the
gobiernos, con las
academy, with the
comunidades,
governments, with the
con los
communities,
gobiernos
and
descentralizados para
with
tratar de buscar
decentralized
soluciones a lo
governments to
largo de toda
try
la
to
cadena de valor
find
en la que
solutions
participamos.
throughout the
Hoy en
value
día
chain.
participamos en negocios
Nowadays, we participate in
yendo hacia
businesses
atrás, como nacimos de
going
alrededor del negocio de
backwards
empaques.
since
La parte
we
tenemos
started with the
la
new
cadena de valor
packaging.
completa.
We see
Creemos
the
que
complete value
el
chain. We
futuro
believe
está
that
en
in
una
the
economía
the
descarbonizada.
future is in a decarbonized economy.
Y en una economía basada en
And
modelos de
in an
economía circular, hoy en
economy
día Argentina es la
based on
única
circular
potencia
economy,
carbono neutro.
and this in
Estamos
El
siendo
Salvador, we
parte
have
del
neutral
grupo de los
carbon. We're part
primeros
of the
5
group
empresas de
of the
todo el
first
mundo, la
five companies around the world.
primera compañía de América en emitir bonos de
uh,
plástico neutral.
Is,
O sea, ver cómo podemos emitir un
and
bono
to
que
see
neutralizamos a
how
través de procesos de
we
reciclaje la
can
huella que
see
generan
a lot of recycling and leave the footprint.
las personas desechos donde no puede haber reciclaje. Luego, cómo transformamos la plataforma de
And
empaques a ser
then
el proceso
how
de
we
ecoamigables y después nos
transform the
vinculamos a lo largo de toda
impact,
la cadena
and
de valor en
then
diseño,
we
uso,
use the
logística
whole value
y
chain
recolección de desechos
and
para convertir en todas estas áreas
collection
oportunidades de
of
impacto y de
waste in
negocios
order to be
sostenibles.
able to create impact in sustainable business.
Que es el tema que hablaremos ahora.
Así es, muchísimas gracias por esta introducción, don
Thank you
Rodrigo.
very
Y como
much
les
for your
comenté, tenemos la
introduction,
oportunidad de que
Rodrigo.
el público
As
se
I was
integre a
saying,
esta conversación.
the
Así
public
que por
can
medio del chat
integrate
pueden
into
hacernos
this
preguntas, así como ya nos
conversation.
llegó la
So
primera,
I'm
que
inviting
precisamente
you
dice, ¿cómo
to
podemos relacionar
make your
en lo productivo
questions. How
y
can we
problemas
relate in
sociales
the
actuales? ¿Cómo
productive and
podemos
social
relacionarnos
problems? How
entonces
can we
como
relate
sociedad? Esta es
ourselves
la primera
as a
pregunta
society?
que nos
This is the
planteamos,
first
¿cómo
question that
podemos
we are
relacionar
asking.
entonces en lo productivo y los problemas
And
sociales que tenemos?
the social
No sé
and
quién
see
quiere
how we
iniciar,
can
tal vez
deal with the
Pili, a
social
partir también
problems
de
that
la
we have.
reflexión que ya nos
Maybe
hiciste.
Pili would like to
Sí,
start.
porque muchísimas gracias. Creo
Thank you very
que
much.
cómo
I
nos podemos
think that
relacionar
how
siendo
can
más
we relate
humanos
it,
los
being
unos con
more
los otros y
human,
viendo
we
cómo podemos aportar y cómo
see
podemos
how we can
servir
contribute and
con
how we
nuestras
can
ideas
serve with our
a
ideas
solucionar problemas.
to solve problems.
Y los zapatos de otro
And step
y
into
de ver
other
cuáles son las
shoes to
necesidades
see
reales
what
de
are
una
the
comunidad.
real needs of a community.
Porque a
Because
medida que vamos
as
sanando
we are healing
ciertas partes en
certain
cuanto
parts,
a alimento,
and with regards
educación,
to food,
salud,
education, health,
conectividad,
connectivity,
podemos ver un
we
mejor
can
rendimiento
see
tanto
a
de
better
en la calidad de vida
performance,
de las personas
both
y
in
la
the quality
actitud
of
de esa
life of the
persona va
people
a
and
ser
the
distinta
attitude of
también.
that person is
Entonces
going to
tenemos
be
que
different.
enfocarnos
So we have
cómo
to
resolver un
focus
problema
how to resolve a
que
problem.
para nosotros puede ser problema, pero para
And
ellos
for us,
no.
it could be a
Entonces
problem,
tenemos
but
que
maybe
tener
for
esa
them it is not.
sensibilidad
So we have to have that
para
sensitivity
saber
to
relacionarnos con
be
los
able
demás
to
y saber
relate with
qué
others
realmente,
and to
porque
see
probablemente una necesidad para mí no lo
what
es
really,
para
because
Rodrigo
maybe a need
y
for me, it's
viceversa.
not for Rodrigo and vice
Y
versa.
no somos dueños de la
And
verdad.
we're
Muchas
not
veces yo
owners of
tengo muchos
the
años
whole
de
truth.
trabajar
I
a la
know I
par
have been
de comunidades
working
indígenas y
in
de comunidades
indigenous communities
remotas.
for many years and
Y
remote
creo que
communities.
nosotros
And I think
los de la capital o los de la
those
ciudad
who live in
creemos
the
que vamos a
capital
ir a
city,
mejorarles
we
la
think we're
vida o a
going to
cambiarles la
improve the
forma.
life
Y yo creo que es
of
al
the
revés.
people
O sea,
and
yo he
the way they
aprendido
live. I think
tanto.
it's
Ellos
the other way
viven
around.
una
I've
vida
learned
tan
so much.
linda
They
y
have
tan en
such a wonderful
conexión con
life
la
and so
naturaleza.
is in
que
such connection with
verdaderamente
nature that
no se
truly
trata de ir
it's not about
poner las ideas
going
nuestras,
to place our ideas,
sino que ver cómo
but
podemos
rather
servir y
how
en
we can
qué
serve
nuestros
and
negocios, nuestros
in what
proyectos,
our businesses,
nuestras
our
ideas
projects, our
pueden llevar
ideas
a una
could
solución
lead to a
y que esa
solution for
solución
these
se
people, and that
convierta en el
solution
eje
could
central
become
de
a
esa relación
central
que vamos a
axis of
crear
that
y de ese
relationship that we're going to
impacto
create, and of that
que va a
impact
beneficiar
that is
tanto a
going to
una parte como a
benefit
la otra,
both one
pero
side
siempre
and the
siendo
other
muy
side, but
sensibles y
always being sensitive
em,
and
muy empáticos,
very
porque
emphatic,
no todo el mundo
because not
vive igual, no todo
everybody
el mundo piensa igual.
it
Entonces,
thinks
¿cómo
in
podemos
why.
beneficiar
So
con
how can
ideas,
we
crear
benefit with
soluciones reales
ideas,
sin
create real
trastocar
solution
la cultura?
without
Porque creo que eso es lo que
touching
nos
or
hace y nos
changing
da
the
la
culture?
identidad,
Because this
es
is
la
what
cultura de cada
gives us
pueblo.
the
Y
identity,
eso,
is the
en mi
culture
opinión,
of
se
each
respeta y se
people. And
valora.
so this is to be respected and to
Muchísimas
be
gracias,
valued.
Pili.
Thank you
Don
very
Rodrigo.
much, Billy. Rodrigo,
Bueno, yo creo que
I think
la parte bien importante es tal vez
the
entender
very important part
con
is
los
to
talentos que cada
understand
uno va
with
generando
the
en el camino, creo
talent
que
that
todos
each one
tenemos
is
una
generated
responsabilidad de ver
along
más
the road.
allá
I think we all have
solamente
the
del negocio en el que
responsibility
estamos
to see
metidos, sino
further
cómo podemos de
than
una
the
manera
business that we're in, but how
contribuir
can we contribute
que nosotros tenemos que ocupar la innovación
and
sostenible para
that
crear un mundo
we
mejor.
know that we have to
Y
occupy
entonces
sustainable
eso quiere
innovation
decir que
to create a
todos
better
en
world.
el
And this
actuar, en el
means
hacer y en
that
lo que
all of us in
hacemos y cómo lo
acting,
hacemos,
doing, and
tenemos
what
que
we do
generar
and
un
how we
impacto
do it, we have to generate
desde
impact
adentro, o sea, es decir,
from
cómo nosotros
within.
constituimos
In
una
other words,
compañía, si
how
somos una
we establish
corporación,
the
si
company,
tenemos
if it's a
un
corporation,
empleado, si
if
tenemos
we have
1000
one
empleados, si tenemos
employee,
10,000
or if
empleados,
we
ya es
have a
parte de nuestra
thousand or
responsabilidad
10,000
como
employees,
ciudadanos
it's
del
all
mundo.
a big
Tenemos que entender que todas las acciones que
responsibility
tomamos como
as
personas y
citizens of the
como
world, that we have to
organizaciones
understand that all
tienen
the
un
actions
impacto.
that we take
Y de
as
ahí también
persons and
tenemos que ver que
organizations
tenemos una
have an impact.
desigualdad en
And
el
then we
mundo
also have to see
sumamente
that
grande.
we have
Solo
an
el índice
inequality in the
de
world, which
innovación
is
que
enormous.
compartía Roxana
Just the
planteando,
innovation
para mí es bien
index that
relevante
Roxana
porque
was
para
talking
mí
about,
el concepto de
or is
innovación,
very
a
relevant,
mí me
because the
gusta ver
concept of
innovación
innovation,
es
I like
simple y
to
sencillamente
see
encontrar una mejor manera de hacer
innovation
algo que sirva para un propósito para crear
and
valor de futuro.
simply find a
O sea, es
better
decir,
way of
nadie
doing
en este día
something,
reinventa la rueda.
and that it
Todo ya
should
está
have a
inventado. Hay
purpose to
una manera
create a
distinta de
value
hacerlo.
chain.
Hay cosas nuevas que podemos traer
Nobody,
a la mesa. Hay
everything has
algo
been
distinto.
invented. If
Pero
there's
al
a
final
different
tenemos
way
que
of doing
generar valor
things,
de
there are
futuro.
things that come
Y
on
en
the
ese valor
table,
de
but in the
futuro,
end, we have to
la parte
generate
más
value
relevante
for
es
the
entender
future.
que
And
toda
this
acción
value for the
trae, o
future,
sea,
the most
toda
relevant
acción
part
tiene
is that
una
every
reacción y en
action
esa reacción
has a
creamos un
reaction, and
impacto
then
o
this
positivo o
reaction,
negativo para
we
los demás.
create an
Y
impact,
tenemos que
positive
ver cómo lo
impact for
balanceamos.
others. We have
Y
to
la
see
dicha que
how we
tenemos hoy
balance
también
it.
es que
The
las compañías
wonderful thing that we have
podemos
is
ser
that
agentes de cambio,
companies can be
podemos ser una
change
gran
agents.
contribución
We
para la
can make a
sociedad
big
y
contributions
podemos ser
for the
también
social
generadores de
part,
oportunidades
and
de
we can
impacto,
also
no solo
generate
en el negocio
social
propio y
impact
cómo lo
opportunity,
hacemos,
not only
sino
in
que
our own
también de cómo
business
nos
and how we do it,
vinculamos
but also
con
how
las
we
demás áreas alrededor de
link
nosotros.
with other areas
Entonces,
on
creo que estamos
the
pasando por un
businesses.
momento
I think
súper
we're going through
importante
a
en
very
en el mundo,
important moment,
porque la revolución de la
because the
tecnología,
revolution
la
of
distancia que se nos ha
technology
cortado en el
and the
conocimiento existe
distance
en
that
un
has
celular o en un
shortened,
dispositivo
and
móvil
so
de
far as
remoto.
knowledge,
La
whether it's in the
conectividad con
use
todos
of
los
connectivity
dispositivos,
with
esto permite que en
internet or
realidad
with
se pueda
telephones,
llegar más
this
lejos y más
allows
rápido
that we can go
que como lo
further and
hacíamos antes.
faster
Y
than
de una
how we
manera
used to do things
descentralizada. No
before, this
podemos
in a
esperar a que los
decentralized way. We
gobiernos de cada
cannot
uno de
wait
nuestros
until the
países
governments
que
of
tienen
each one of
tantos
our
problemas que
countries that have
resolver
so many problems
sean
to
también los que
resolve
resuelvan los
be
problemas
the
no
ones that will
solamente los de
resolve the
innovación y
problems
la parte de cómo
not of
interactuamos en la parte de la
innovation
innovación
and the way
sostenible.
how we
Creo que
act
ahí
and
también
how
el
we
sector
work,
privado tiene una
but that
responsabilidad bien
also the
grande
private
de que
sector has a
nosotros podemos traer
responsibility that
estas
we
soluciones a la mesa,
can
podemos
bring
acelerarlas
solutions
y
to the
podemos generar más
table. We
impacto
can
y con ello
accelerate,
consolidar que
create
más gente
more
se une.
impact.
Entonces, me parece que
So
estamos
I
en un
think
momento bien
we
oportuno
are
y bien
the
bonito en donde la
time
contribución de todos
in life
puede
to
generar
give a
cambios grandes.
great contribution and can
Y
generate great
realmente
impact.
cambios grandes que necesitamos,
And
¿verdad? Porque
large
realmente la
changes are
pandemia
the
nos ha
ones that we
permitido
need, and the pandemic has
repensarnos y
allowed us to
lamentablemente se han agudizado
rethink the way of
problemas,
doing
incluso nos han
things,
puesto mucho más
and
visibles, ¿verdad?
the problem has
Pero nos
become more
permite
visible. But
precisamente
this
tener
allows us
conciencia y
precisely
buscar
to
cómo
have
podemos mejorar y eso
awareness
quiero destacarlo
and to
muchísimo
try to
porque
work on that. And I would
esta
like to
perspectiva
highlight a
humana
lot because
se
this
nota bastante fuerte en
perspective
el discurso y
is
en la
very
acción que
strong in
ustedes
the
tienen
way you're
y
talking and
también
the
cómo
actions
hacemos
of
entonces esa
what you
escucha y
do
esa lectura del
and
entorno
how we
y
work
cómo podemos
and
entonces
how we we can then advance on along the path, because if we find everybody will be fine. So Rodrigo gave us some leads, which are the conditions that allow us to make social innovation. Really, would you like to add a bit more about what are those connections before entering, to see the opportunities and the experiences that you've had, and how internally, what do you do internally to constantly innovate? And Rodrigo also talked about how to reinvent oneself and to be updated and become engineers along the way.
Yo creo que
I
como te
think,
mencionaba antes,
as
para
I
mí
mentioned earlier,
es
for
como una
me,
necesidad
this is
eso
like a need
de crear.
to create.
Así como necesito comer, necesito
The way
como
I need
estar
to,
activa y
as
estar,
I need to eat,
y
I
he
also
tomado
need
la
to be
decisión
active, and I have taken
personal
this
de
personal
enfocar esa
decision
energía
to
en crear
focus
nuevos
that
productos,
energy
pero no
in
únicamente
creating
un producto. O sea, para mí un
products, but
producto
not only
tiene
products.
que ver
For me, a product has to do
desde la concepción
from
del
the
producto
beginning or from the
hasta
startup
cómo se
of the
termina
product and
ese
up to
producto.
how that
Eh,
product is finished.
Me he enfocado
I have
bastante y durante
focused
muchísimos
a
años
lot,
empecé
and
con
for
jeans
many years
reciclados,
I
luego con
started
plásticos de
with
un solo
recycled
uso,
jeans and
ahora estoy con la piel de
single time
pescado
products,
y
and now I'm
pues
starting with
esa
the
parte
fish skin, and that
de
part
cómo desde
of
cero
how from
creamos algo
zero we
sostenible, porque
create
no
something that
únicamente
is
se trata de un
sustainable,
producto,
because
sino que se
it's not only
trata
about
de
the
un
product,
modelo de
it's also
negocio,
about a
de un
business model.
proyecto a
It's about
seguir,
a
de un
project
trato con
to
las
be followed,
personas.
and treat
em,
how you treat
entonces
people,
es
and
una
what sort of
gama
treatment you have with
de
people. So it's a
aspectos
series
los
of
que
aspects,
conllevan
the
a
ones
poder
that
crear
need
y poder
us to be
ofrecer
able
al
to create and
mercado
be
final
able to
un producto
offer the
sostenible.
end market a
Se trata de
sustainable
ver
product.
qué
It's
es lo que
about
necesita la
trying to
gente,
see
qué
what
problemas
people need,
se
what
necesitan resolver,
problems
cómo
need to
puedo
be resolved.
vincular
How
una
can I
cosa con la
link
otra,
one thing
cómo
with
puedo
another?
escalar,
How
cómo
can I
puedo
scale up?
incluir
How can
a
I
más
include
personas.
more
Yo
people?
hice un proyecto el
I made a
año
project
antepasado
the 2 years
y lo que
ago,
hicimos fue
and what we did was
recolectar
we
papel
collected
reciclado de
paper,
empresas y
recycled
creamos
paper from
zapatos con ese
companies, and
papel,
we made
y el
shoes with that
beneficiario iba a
paper, and the
ser un centro de
beneficiary
parálisis
is going
cerebral
to
aquí en
be
Tegucigalpa. Y lo que yo
cerebral
hice fue
palsy
trasladar mis
center in
talleres de
Tegucigalpa. So what
traducción
I did was
al centro
transfer
de
my
parálisis
production
cerebral y
workshops to
buscar
the
dentro de los
uh,
muchachos
brain palsy
quienes
centers
tenían
and
qué
look for
aptitud,
what
porque muchas
aptitude
veces
these youth have, because
todos
many
tenemos
times
déficits de
we
uno
all
u otro,
have
de uno u otro
deficits,
lado, ¿verdad?
deficits one
Pero
way or
todos
another,
tenemos dones y
but we all
talentos
have
también. Y
talents
solo es
as
de
well.
saber
It's
tener la
only
disponibilidad, el
know that
tiempo
we have the
y las ganas de
availability, the
encontrarlo,
time,
de
and the
verlo
desire to
y
find
de
those to see
potenciar eso
and
en cada
to
ser humano. Así
impulse
como,
each
entonces lo que hicimos que
human
a
being. So
ellos
what
les
we did
enseñamos a ser
is
parte de
we
esa
taught
producción,
them to be part of
se
the
les dio
production.
un nuevo
We
empleo, se
gave
les
them
dio
a
un
new
salario, se
employment, we
sintieron
gave them a
incluidos.
salary,
Entonces,
they felt
ese
included.
sentido de
So
pertenencia
that sense of
es sumamente
belonging
importante
is
cuando
so
uno
important,
construye
because
un
when one
producto
builds
sostenible,
a sustainable
porque
product,
todos son
because
ejes,
these
es como
are
un Rubik
axes, it's
Cube, ¿se
like
acuerdan de los
a,
Rubik Cubes?
a
Hay que ir
Rubik's cube
formando
you have
y
to
hay que ir
form, and you
armonizando
have to
para
harmonize
poder lograr
in
al
order to be
final
able to achieve
un
in the end
producto que no
a
sea un boom
product
de un
that
momento,
is
sino
not
que sea
only a one-time
a lo
boom,
largo
but
del
that
tiempo,
in
que
time
sea un medio
it should be a
fijo y
means, a
perdurable
fixed
para la
and lasting
generación de
means
ingresos.
for the generation of income.
Muchísimas gracias, Pili.
Thank you
Don
very
Rodrigo.
much. And Rodrigo,
Yo primero tengo un pequeño reclamo
I
porque
first of
yo no soy
all
Don
have to
Rodrigo.
claim I'm not Don Rodrigo.
Fíjate que aquí
Uh,
Rodrigo, ¿verdad? Don
I'm
Rodrigo.
Rodrigo.
Don
I'm not
Rodrigo,
Don
Rodrigo,
Rodrigo.
por
Excuse me,
favor, tiene
Rodrigo.
toda la razón.
Yes, you're right. It's just call him
No,
Don
pero en
Rodrigo.
realidad
Yes,
este
in
tema es súper
reality,
interesante porque
this
las
is a
compañías,
very
en el
interesting
caso en el
topic,
que me toca
because
la
the
dicha de
companies,
estar al frente de una organización
at
que ya
least the
era una
one that
organización
is
que
in my
tenía varios
organization,
años de
this was an
la
organization that
especialización
had
que uno
been
busca
working for
cuando
many
una
years.
compañía que va
When a
madurando es la
company that
excelencia
is
operacional. O sea,
maturing
nos
is the
volvemos
operational
expertos en
excellence, and we
hacerlo
become
mejor lo que ya
experts in doing
sabíamos
the
hacer.
best
Y el
about
problema
what
es que
we
cuando
already
uno
knew how
busca la
to do. But the
expertise y la
problem
excelencia
is when we look
operacional,
for
lo que busca pues es
expertise
ser
and
predecible,
operational
eficientar
expertise,
milimétricamente,
and
pero
so
entonces es bien complicado
we
cómo
are looking for
metemos
something
una
else. So
cuestión
it's
de
very
innovación a una
complicated.
compañía
How
que
do
está
we inject
enfocada en
new
hacer las cosas
ideas
bien
into a
hechas todos
company
los
that
días
is
lo mismo.
focused on doing
Y entonces hay
things
un gran
well
reto, hay
made
una
every
gran
day? So
disyuntiva,
this is a
que
big
es
challenge.
innovar o es
So it's
solamente
innovate,
mejorar lo que ya hago.
or is it only
Y
to
nosotros
improve
veníamos
what we're
peleando
already
mucho por
doing?
eso,
So we have
obviamente
been
pues porque los
working a
empaques que
lot on
nosotros
that
fabricamos
because
son
the
dentro del
packaging,
ecosistema del mundo de los
we're
plásticos.
also a
Hace
member
como
of
15
the
años nosotros nos
plastic
retamos y dijimos, el
ecosystem.
mundo
About
plástico va a
15
cambiar
years
y si
ago,
no
we
cambiamos,
decided
nos
that
vamos a
we had to
morir. O
change
sea,
the
la
plastic.
excelencia
If we don't
operacional
change, we're going to die
no nos
to
va a resultar ser el
operational
futuro del negocio.
excellence is
Realmente hay que
going to be the
reinventarse, hay
future
que
of the
reconocer
business.
toda la
So we
referencia que
have to
tenemos porque hace parte de
recognize
una cadena de valor
everything that
extendida,
we're
pero lo
doing.
más importante,
And but the
hay que
most
buscar
important
soluciones de
thing is
futuro.
that we have to
Y
look
el
for
tema era,
solutions.
el
And
reto es tener
the
que
issue
reinventar la
was
manera
that
como
the
pensamos
challenge
y
that we
tenemos
had
que
to
cambiar la
reinvent the
cultura
way how we think, and we
y
have to change the
mantener la
culture
excelencia operacional,
and
pero
keep
incorporar la parte de la innovación.
the
Entonces,
excellence,
creo que eso es bien
operational
bonito porque
excellence.
dentro de un
I think that's
emprendimiento,
very
que por eso
nice
creo que decimos, nos
because,
gusta decir que
uh,
seguimos siendo emprendedores,
as we
aunque
like
nos
to
hagamos ya
say,
un emprendimiento 50 y pico de años,
uh, and
porque hay que
we've been
crear
working for quite a few
mecanismos
years
e
because we
instancias
have
que
to create
permitan que la innovación salga
mechanisms and
de adentro,
instances
no
so that the
solamente la podemos ver
production
de
comes
afuera.
from
Obviamente
within.
ahora con el
We
mundo
don't only
colaborativo hay
have to see
mucha
it from the
inversión afuera,
outside,
pero
but
necesitamos
there's a
tener
lot of
mucha
collaboration from
innovación adentro.
outside, but we
Entonces
have to
nosotros
spare
creamos
a
un
lot
par de
of
mecanismos
innovation. So we
que creo que es
created
bueno
a
compartirlos,
couple of
en donde primero
mechanisms
buscábamos
where
liderar una
first we
organización
were
de
looking for
intraemprendedores. Esto quiere
uh,
decir
an
que hicimos programas de
organization of
intraemprendimiento en
entrepreneurs.
donde ponemos
We
nosotros
made
grandes retos que
entrepreneurial
nosotros cada
programs where
año
we
hacemos
placed our
una
big challenges,
ideazón, vemos
and every
grandes áreas donde
years
podemos tener una
we were
contribución muy
talking
útil.
about that we had
Estos retos
large
de
areas
ideazón los
where we
pasamos
wanted to
por un
work, and
filtro
these
de innovación.
challenges were
Tenemos
passed through an
áreas o tópicos
innovation
que queremos
filter,
atacar en temas de
and we
innovación.
have
Y de ahí
areas that
abrimos
we
hacia el
want to
interior
talk
de la
about. And
organización
then
y
we
decimos, queremos
opened
emprendedores que nazcan
this.
de
We
esto y que
want
traigan un frente
entrepreneurs that
innovador.
are that
Esos
come
son
from
los
here. So
intraemprendedores.
these are
Tenemos un
the
método, un
micro
sistema, cómo los
entrepreneurs.
traemos, se les
We have a
permite que ellos
method,
se
a
salgan del
system,
país
how we
para
obtain them
temporalmente, trabajen un proyecto
and
de
how they
innovación,
work
lo
temporary.
lancen
They
y si
work on
funciona,
innovation, they
pues tenemos
launch
cómo escalar.
and they launch
Cuando
it. And
veíamos
if
que el
it
programa de
works and we scale it
emprendimiento era
up, when
una
we
manera
saw
de
that
cómo
the
generar innovación
entrepreneurship
dentro de una
program was a way
corporación,
of generating
teníamos que tener también
innovation in a
un hub
corporation, we
en
also
donde
had
todo
to
ese
have a
conocimiento de este
triangle of
proceso y este sistema
knowledge.
estuviera
And
respaldado.
then this
Y ahí es donde
system
nace
was
el
going to
InnovaLab, que se
be
convierte en
work.
el
And this
primer
is what
laboratorio de
Innova
innovación corporativa
was
en
created. It
Centroamérica.
becomes
Esto
the
nació
first
precisamente
laboratory
en
in
la
Central
pandemia.
America
Fue un proyecto en el
during the
cual nos
pandemic,
vinculamos con el AID
where
de
we
la ASI,
linked with
como
USAID,
asociación
with
privada y
ASI,
fundador, para
and
crear
the
un
private
lugar
sector of El
abierto
Salvador to
en donde la
create an
academia, la
open
empresa
place
privada
where
y las distintas
academia, private
garantías
enterprise, and
podíamos crear un
cooperating
mecanismo de cómo la
organizations could
innovación
create
se
a mechanism
sistematiza
of
y que
how
invita a que tanto
innovation is
emprendedores
systematized and
como
invite
corporaciones
entrepreneurs
trabajen de
and
la mano en nuestras
corporation to
soluciones.
work hand in
Y ahí
hand.
viene la
And
vinculación
so
del
this is where we
intraemprendedor
have
con
the
el
link of
emprendedor
the
o con la
im-
academia o con una corporación
entrepreneur
a
with
través de un
the
laboratorio de innovación.
entrepreneur through an
Entonces,
innovation
adentro de la empresa
laboratory. So
creamos un
within the
laboratorio de
company,
innovación
we
que nos
have an
sirve tanto a
innovation
nosotros para
laboratory
los
that
programas de
serves
intraemprendimiento
us
como
for
para
the
vincularnos
entrepreneurship
hacia
programs
afuera
and
con
to
otras
also
corporaciones.
to link
Y todo
us
esto lo atamos con
externally
el
with
uso
other
del Link
companies. And this
4.0.
is done
Es
with the
decir, hay
use of
tantas
Link
herramientas disponibles, hay
4.0.
tantas
There's
maneras de
so
acortar
many
el éxito
tools
de todo lo que
available, a
queremos
way to
emprender,
shorten
que
success,
hay que
which is what
tener
we
todas las
want to change.
herramientas
We
de
have
nuestro
to
equipo
have
computacional a
all
mano.
the
Entonces tengo que
tools
crear un
on
repositorio, un
hand, how
observatorio
to
de todos los
create
cambios que
a
se están dando
repository and
y cómo esto
observatory of
puede
the
mejorar.
changes that are
Y
occurring,
es
how these
increíble
can
cómo vamos
contribute. It's
encontrando al
incredible
ir uniendo todas
how
estas
we
piezas,
find when we hear all or
innovación de
join
un
all these
emprendedor que
parts,
está en una
innovation of an
colonia marginal muy
entrepreneur that is
vulnerable,
in a
que
marginal
cuando alguien
community,
busca una
that when
necesidad y lo
somebody
vincula con
looks
una
for
oportunidad,
that
ahí
and you
realmente hay
give them
éxito.
an
Y
opportunity,
esa es la
this
parte que
is
a
when the
mí me
person
apasiona, de ver cómo
grows.
el
And
poder
this
de
is
una
what
corporación que
gives
busca
is
una
makes me so
necesidad
passionate,
vincula con
when
gente de
a
adentro
company who
que
has
quiere
a need
emprender, pero
links with
también
somebody
busca un
from
emprendedor
within
de
that
afuera.
wants to learn,
Y
but
si
will
se
also
crea
look for
ese
an
pasito de
external entrepreneur.
oportunidad
But if we
con recursos,
create that
entonces
opportunity
realmente podemos
space
hacer
with
magia. Y eso
resources,
pues se
we can
traduce
do
en un
something
emprendimiento, en una
very
innovación.
good that produces an
Entonces, nosotros
entrepreneurship.
lanzamos de estos retos,
So
lanzamos
we
alrededor de
launch
20,
these
25 retos
challenges.
al año.
We
Esto
launch
es como tener
approximately
todo el
20,
tiempo
25
una,
challenges per year.
nosotros
It's like
llamamos
having
una incubadora interna de
an
proyectos
internal
y
project
vinculamos
incubator
academia,
internally, and
corporaciones,
we work with
emprendedores e
academia,
intraemprendedores para poder
corporations,
generar innovación desde dentro de una
many
organización.
entrepreneurs,
Y después de 2
entrepreneurs,
años, créanme
and
que
after
esto no
2 years,
cambió. Ya
believe
no
me,
pensamos
this
igual, la
changed. We
organización
don't
ya
think the same. The organization generates
cambio de
a
cómo vemos
future
las cosas,
within,
cómo buscamos
the way
soluciones,
we see
nos
things, the
está
way we seek
llevando hacia una
solutions, and this
corporación
is bringing us
completamente
to
distinta.
become a
Y lo
totally
más
different
bonito de esto es que es
corporation. And the
completamente
best part
abierto.
of it is
No
that
es
it's
nuestro,
totally
la
open.
innovación no es nuestra.
In
Los innovadores no
innovation is
estamos acá.
ours.
La colaboración abierta y
The
buscar soluciones
open
en común de
collaboration, I
retos,
think,
problemas.
is something that is
Me
so
encanta como
important.
Pili decía
And
que
I
ella no llega a
love
cambiar una
what Billy
comunidad,
says, that she doesn't go and
pero
change
la
the
comunidad tiene algo
community,
que
how the
ella, con el
community lives,
conocimiento de
but
ella,
the
lo puede
community
convertir
has
en algo que se
something
convierte en una
that
innovación, que convierte en una patente. O sea,
she could use to
imagínense el
become
poder de
something
esas
else.
uniones.
Imagine the power of these
Entonces, esa es la magia,
unions.
creo yo,
So that's a
de unir todos
magic
los puntos que
of
ya están
uniting all
disponibles,
the points
pero
that
que
are
pocos
already
trabajamos en
available,
crear esa
but
oportunidad.
few work to create these spaces.
Gracias. Rodrigo, por compartir estas
Thank you,
apreciaciones.
Rodrigo. I'm
Así
going
como
to
todos
share
nosotros.
these
Tenemos más preguntas
appreciations
también
with
que nos
everybody. We
llegan
have
por
more
parte de las
questions
personas
that
que están siguiendo esta
are on
conversación.
the
Bueno, yo
chat.
creo que nos va a dar para mucho.
So
Realmente es muy
we
grato
are going
compartir
to
con
have a
ustedes
lot
esta
of
información que
information. It's
se nos ha
really
generado previamente.
wonderful to
Aprovecho
learn
en los espacios porque ya se nos está yendo muy,
that
muy rápido
you're working in the
este foro.
spaces, but
Quería
the time
aprovechar
is flying. I
para
wanted to
conversar
take
más acerca de este
advantage to
punto
talk a bit
de
more
conexión, ¿verdad?
about the
Cómo
connection
generar
points,
alianzas y
how
cómo
to
generar que otros
generate
instancias
alliances, and how
también
other
vean las
instances
oportunidades que tiene la
see
innovación
the
social y se apunten
opportunities that
a
you
este
have
carrito,
in
¿verdad? Ya
social
Rodrigo nos
innovation
comentaba
and
algunas
connect.
iniciativas que ya se
Rodrigo
han
was
llevado a
already
cabo.
connecting
Pili en su
to
momento
some
también nos
issues that
comentó
they were doing,
sobre
and
algunas también
Billy
espacios de
also commented
capacitación y de
about some
acompañamiento que también
tracing
desarrolla
spaces and
para ir creando
accompaniment
estas redes de trabajo
that she
colaborativo.
develops to
¿Qué otras
create this
estrategias
work in
podríamos utilizar?
collaboration. What other
Creo
strategies
que
could
es
be
la
used?
parte para lograr generar un
Well, I
impacto
believe that
real y
in order to
verdadero en una
generate a
comunidad,
real
no es un
and
trabajo de una
true
persona y no es
impact in a
una idea.
community, that's not
Es una
something that one person will
vinculación
do, or that's not just one
interinstitucional, con
idea that will achieve this. It's an
academia,
institutional vision,
por ejemplo,
a
yo
joint vision with
con
private
Costa Rica,
enterprise, with
somos
academia, like say with
tantos
Costa
y
Rica.
me da tanto
Costa Rica,
gusto
we're
y
so
todo
many, and
nació
I
porque un
feel
día yo
very, very
encontré
glad
un
that that's the
proyecto
case.
de
It came about because one day I
era
found a
un,
project. It
no era
was
premio, era
a
más que todo una beca,
it
sí, con
wasn't
premio,
like
pero una
an
beca en
award. It
ICAE
was like
durante la
a grant
pandemia. Y
for
pues yo me
ICAE
apunté
during
y
the pandemic. So
como
I
dicen,
signed up,
cuando una butterfly
and
flaps al otro lado del
you know,
mundo,
like the butterfly
nos causa
effect, when a
impacto a
butterfly
nosotros
flaps
también. Al
its
final todos somos
wings
uno,
in
somos
one
como un
side of the
aro.
world, it affects everyone.
Y
So
eso
that is the
llevó
case.
a
We're
que yo
all
participara en el
interconnected. So that led
INCAE,
me
que
to
yo
participate in
participara y ganar
ICAE,
un premio en
and
INCAE,
then
llevó
to win
a
an
que el
award
INCAE
at
me presentara
ICAE.
con
That led to
Marviva,
ICAE
lo
to
que yo ya
introduce
había
me
hecho en
to
Honduras
Marviva,
de la mano de Goal,
to show them my
una
work
ONG
that I'd already done
irlandesa,
in
y de
Honduras,
BitLab,
and also
me
with
permitió
Goal,
mostrarles lo que ya
BitLab.
se
Goal
había
is a
hecho. Y
Dutch company.
eso
It
es una
enabled
cosa
me
lleva a la otra.
to show what
Y
I
ahora
had
ya
done thus
somos
far. So one
dos
thing led to the other,
países,
and right now
muchas
it's two countries,
instituciones,
a lot of
incluso el
institutions.
INCAE se
In
comprometió
fact,
a
INCAE
llevar
made a commitment to
conocimiento y darle seguimiento
take
a estas
knowledge and give
58
follow-up
mujeres en temas de
to these
marca
58 women
personal, en
on
temas
personal
de
branding,
cómo
on
crear emprendimientos y
how to
cómo ese
create
flujo de caja que hay que mantener
entrepreneurships,
para crear
teaching
un
them about
negocio a
this
largo
cash flow that you
plazo.
need so that you can
Todo
create
ese
your
tema
business and have it be
es tan
successful
importante y esas
in the long
coyunturas
term. So all of
que
that is
necesitamos
important. So
armar como un
all that
rompecabezas para
context
que
that you
todo el
need
sistema
to put
funcione.
together as
Porque es
pieces
igual
of the
como el
puzzle so that the entire
ecosistema
system can
marino
work. It's
costero.
just like the
Es una
marine
cadena
coastal ecosystem. It's
circular.
a chain,
Viene
a
el
circular
pescador,
chain of things. The
pesca,
fisherman
nosotros nos
comes along, they
alimentamos,
fish,
de ahí sale
we
este
uh,
subproducto,
feed
se
ourselves,
utiliza
and
este
then there's the
subproducto para
subproduct that
crear
comes along. The
otros
subproduct, this
productos,
byproduct
pero
is
en ese
created to create
encadenamiento
another product
hay
for
muchas
products.
personas involucradas
But
y
throughout that
muchísimas
chain, there's a lot
personas
of people
beneficiadas
involved and a lot of
también.
people who
Entonces,
benefit
esa es
from
la
it as well.
parte de
So that's the part.
es como el blockchain,
It's kind of
¿verdad?
like the
Hay
blockchain.
un
I
eje
liken
y
it to the
están las
blockchain. There's an
cadenitas y
axis,
creo que
and
también ese es el futuro y cómo
this is a
podemos
chain. So I
en
think
nuestras
that's where the future
innovaciones
lies.
y en
We need
estos
to think about
proyectos
how in our
de
innovation
impacto
and how in
social
our
en
social
comunidades,
impact
cómo
projects in
podemos
communities,
vincular la
how
tecnología.
can we
Yo siento que es
link all of
sumamente
that
importante,
into
como bien lo
technology?
decía
I think that
Rodrigo,
this is very
estamos
important.
mucho
Like Rodrigo
más
was saying,
interconectados.
we
Hubiera
are
sido
much more interconnected nowadays.
de chiste que mi bisabuelo le
So,
dijera a mi
I mean,
mamá
if
que por medio de
my
una
great grandfather
pantalla
had
iba a
told my
poder estar
mom that
aquí en Eslovaquia al mismo
they would
tiempo
be able to
y
have meetings with people in
hubiese sido imposible. Pues
other countries around the
si
world,
abrimos la
that
mente
would
y
not
si
have been
abrimos el
feasible back
corazón
then. But if we
y
open
si
up our
vemos
minds, if we open
realmente
up
en
our
un
hearts and
beneficio
truly
colectivo,
see
no
that this is
únicamente un
something that
beneficio
can benefit
personal,
everyone
creo que
collectively
podemos
instead of
llegar
just seeing how this can
a
benefit
hacer
me personally,
vínculos
I think we can
importantes
create very
con
important ties
instituciones, con
to different
gobierno, con
institutions,
ONGs,
to
con
different
empresas
governments, with
particulares,
NGOs, with
con empresa
private
privada,
enterprise companies,
con academia,
with
como
academia
decía
as
Rodrigo,
well, so that we
para
can,
vivir en
as
un
Rodrigo
mundo
was saying,
mejor, para
live
dejarle a
in
nuestros
an overall
nietos
better world, so that we
una
can leave
esencia
behind for our
mejor,
children
¿verdad?
and our children's
Esa
children
vinculación es
a better
sumamente
essence.
importante. Creo
So
que
this
no somos una
linkage, I think,
isla,
is very important.
estamos todos unidos, estamos todos
We are
conectados,
not
más
islands unto
ahora.
ourselves. We're all
Entonces, si
interconnected
podemos
now more than ever, I would say.
promover,
So if we can
escalar,
promote, scale
replicar,
up,
qué
replicate
bueno sea,
all
pues
this,
enhorabuena.
then, well, well,
Tenemos una
it'll
consulta
be
que
very,
quiero
very
empezar
welcome.
también con Rodrigo
Now,
y
I
luego
have a
pasamos a
question
Tony para que
that I
nos
want
apoye
to ask Rodrigo and then also Pili, if you could answer it. We know that you have a lot of lessons learned. And of course, these are opportunities to improve all of our sectors. Now, this question says, what recommendations would you make to universities, incubators, and accelerators in order to promote an innovative culture that aims to have an impact on society among entrepreneurs? That's a question made via the chat box. So I want to tell you that we're about to move on to the final message because time is unfortunately running out. But let's talk about this. How can we ask universities to do this? How can we also make these recommendations to incubators and accelerators so that they can also include social impact as a point to take into account by entrepreneurs? I think it's interesting if we look at innovation ecosystems throughout the world. There are some that have already contributed, some models that do work. So each country doesn't have to reinvent the wheel all by themselves. We don't have to start from scratch. When we as a company were reimagining ourselves, what we did was travel to Chile, Colombia, and Israel so that we could better understand these worlds of innovation that come about in countries that aren't too big or too rich, but countries that did have similar problems to ours. And in those countries, we saw how academia plays an essential role, and also how government support programs are also essential. So if I had to mention one good practice, I think it's the point in which the governments are clear about the industries, which are critical industries in which a competitive value is generated for the country. That is that you have a raw material, if you have a coastal area, something pertaining to the coastal area, or if you have any specific industry, then revolve around that. And then the universities create programs which can foster research and development around these development axes. The important thing is that when this is done in synchronicity, the private sector is the one that fosters innovation the most, because innovation at the academia level has a raison d'etre, but then someone else has to take it and accelerate it and innovate it even further. In our countries, there is a problem, though. The availability of investment capital for entrepreneurs is very low. We do not have a huge capital market for entrepreneurship and innovation. So it's basically the private sector that does this. So I believe that if synchronicity can come along, that can be very beneficial. And there's also a lot of cooperation agencies in our countries that sometimes work in an or coordinated manner. So if academia and the private sector are aligned, then coordination funds can be used. And like Pili was saying, she receives cooperation funds from someplace else, and that has an influence in other countries. So I think that's an ideal example of how, if we can achieve this in a systematic way, this can lead us to work with vulnerable populations, vulnerable ecosystems, vulnerable resources, and by also adding innovation to the mix, and also the knowledge given by universities and academia and capital. That's how you achieve sustainable development.
Sí, creo que no hay nada más que agregar. Creo que lo
I
que
think
dijo
there's
Rodrigo
nothing
está
further
muy
to add. I
completo.
think that what Rodrigo said was quite concise
Esa
and on
parte
point.
es una
I
tripartita.
think it's
Educación,
a
ambiente,
triangle made up by
gobierno,
education, the environment,
y ver
and the government.
realmente, ver. Por
Those
eso
are
creo
the
que
axes,
soy fotógrafa y
and
por eso
well,
pienso que tenemos que aprender a ver
I'm a
un poco
photographer,
más,
so I'm very
tanto
visual, and I think that we need to be
cuáles
more
son los
visual. We need to
recursos que
learn how to
tenemos
see things
disponibles.
more.
El
We need to
mundo
have
está
a look at what
cambiando
resources
y
are
va a cambiar
available. The
drásticamente,
world is
creo que con el
changing,
paso
and it
del
will continue
tiempo.
to
Ya no es
drastically change over
factible
time.
tener
It
una
is no
fábrica en
longer
China
feasible to
y
have a factory
transportar
in
todo eso.
China
Es
and
contaminar.
transport all
Tenemos
that. I
que
mean, that
aprender
entails pollution
a
and many other things. We
utilizar
need
nuestros recursos
to
locales
learn how to use
y
our
a
local
empoderar nuestras
resources,
localidades
how to empower our
para
local
un mayor
places, local
beneficio de
cities
nuestros
and
países
villages, so it
también.
can benefit our countries further.
Eso que mencionas, Pili, es clave,
What
¿verdad?
you
Ver
mentioned, Pili,
cómo
is key.
podemos
Trying to
innovar
find
ese
out how we can
conocimiento endógeno, ¿verdad?
innovate
Y
the
cómo podemos
knowledge
transformar.
that
Porque no
exists
se
within
trata
us,
simplemente para vender
because it's
en cada
not
uno de
just
nuestros
about,
países
to
o
sell
poder
in each one of our
pensar en
countries
el
or thinking
mercado
about the
centroamericano, sino
market
también cómo nos
in
integramos
Central America,
al
but we
mercado
also need to
global,
think
cómo
about
nos
how we embed
diferenciamos en el
ourselves
mercado
into
global.
the global market, and how do we differentiate ourselves? And on that, I wanted to ask Rodrigo, how do we differentiate ourselves as a region? What are some of the challenges that we have thinking about companies and entrepreneurships, different productive units that exist in Central America? What are some of the strengths that we have to display ourselves to the world? And I also wanted to take this opportunity to tell you that Melissa, one of the people that made a question, she also wants to thank you for the answers. He says that it was very clear and very useful. So Rodrigo, with that last question, please go ahead. Well, I think that the world became quite small. And the first part that I always like to mention is I think that we need to believe that from Central America can generate innovation that can be attractive for everyone. No one has to believe that just because we're Central American, we're a different class and we can't reach the world. Experience has taught us this. We have great entrepreneurships that were born in Central America that had an impact throughout the world, and we should take that as an example. Now, of course, to scale up, you need to introduce the cost factor to provide that scaling up. So the ideas that we envisage, and when we create these business models, we need to always try to see that the client for whom we're trying to build a solution is going to be a client that's just geographically limited to Central America. Scaling up, if I do well, if I manage to create the minimum viable product, if I create a prototype, if I make a product, it needs to go beyond just a Central American solution. What this means is I will not create a product only designed for people who live in San Jose, Costa Rica, or San Pedro, Honduras. I need to create a product for all of Latin America. So that mindset, when you say, okay, I'm going to challenge myself so it can be universal, you can start small, but you can think big. Now, lastly, we need to acknowledge the fact that if you have an innovative idea, one that aims to solve a problem that exists in the world, there's something that's very important here. Social impact, environmental impact takes away our national flags, because people who truly value a solution that has an economic, a social impact or an environmental impact that exists throughout the world. So if I try to sell this service in a demographic that's quite poor or low resource, the client might be interested, but they might not pay a lot. But if I can take this product to an economy such as Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland, the United States, they have more purchasing power and they can pay a better price. So for any entrepreneur, I always want to tell you, think big. If you think small, you might only constrain yourself to that small market. Also, look for a way to grow. Just as you look for a way to be innovative, try to get in touch with someone that can help you grow. Reach out to international fairs, reach out to international cooperation funds. How can you go online and offer your products to other places in the world? You mustn't be scared about selling a sample. There are 10,000 problems that you have to sell. My wife is an entrepreneur, and selling a small product from El Salvador to Germany, the ocean freight costs more than the product itself, but you mustn't limit yourself to that. You need to continue to find a way. I believe that this point is very important, because if the solution is attractive regarding social impact and environmental impact, the world has a lot of buyers who are willing to buy that product, and the market for economic and for social and environmental impact products is much larger abroad. Thank you very much, Rodrigo. Now, how about Billy? Well, I completely agree with Rodrigo. I think that you described my business model, the path I've taken throughout all this. First of all, I think that we need to believe in ourselves. This is something that I've seen repeatedly. It's a cultural thing, maybe in our countries. We're very skilled with our hands. I'm surprised by it. I'm not sure what it is, but our countries, our skills with our hands is a very important and powerful resource. And then, as Rodrigo was saying, looking for solutions, trying to generate local solutions for international clients. Now, of
¿verdad?
course, as the old adage goes,
así ha sido la historia,
no one is a
así ha
prophet
sido,
in their own
eh,
land.
las
Not even
personas
Jesus was a prophet in his own
exitosísimas
land.
han tenido que
Very successful
buscárselo un
people
poquito
have
afuera de
very
casa
usually had
para
to look
realmente
for
lograr ese
opportunities
impacto.
abroad
Yo
in order
cuando
to achieve this
probé,
impact.
porque a todos los emprendedores que están ahí al otro lado, yo
Now,
estuve
for
ahí
all the
también
entrepreneurs who
y
were on the
Rodrigo
other side of the
también.
screen, I was there
Y creo
once
que
myself, and
eso,
so
creer
was
en uno
Rodrigo.
mismo, tratar de
So
crear productos
it's all about
que
creating
beneficien a lo
products
local y que se
that
puedan
benefit
vender a un
locally and
mayor
which can be
precio a nivel
sold at a greater
internacional.
price
Yo jamás me
abroad.
imaginé el día que yo empecé a jugar con ese pescadito, con esa piel
So
de pez,
I remember when I
que yo le
started
iba a estar vendiendo a
to play
productores de
around with
jet
that
skis,
fish skin.
porque ese
I never
cuero es
imagined that I would be selling
impermeable,
that
es
to
9
jet
veces más
ski
resistente que el
manufacturers
cuero de
because
ganado
that
vacuno.
leather is
Y
much
así de
more
una idea
resistant
que se te
than
viene a aprender a
paddle
escuchar
leather.
a
So
uno
just
mismo
having an idea,
y aprender
you learn how to listen to yourself
a
and
no
have a very
tener
good
miedo a
idea.
tocar
You
una
learn how to
puerta, a
not be
pedir un
afraid to knock on
consejo.
doors,
Hay
how to not be
mucha gente
afraid
allá
to
afuera que está
ask for
dispuesta
advice. There's a lot
a
of people out
ayudar
there
y
who are
yo
willing
estoy
to
segura
help.
que Rodrigo y yo
And I'm sure
también,
that Rodrigo
¿verdad?
and
Estamos
myself,
dispuestos a ayudarles,
we
ustedes
are
que están
also
ahí,
willing to help as
y a
well to all
contarles
of you
sobre
who are listening to us
nuestras
and to tell you about
experiencias
our
y
experiences
tratar de encaminar un poquito
and
cómo se
try to
logran
maybe
conseguir esos
guide you
fondos, cómo se hacen
towards how to
vinculaciones
procure those funds. How
interinstitucionales,
can you
cómo
create
aportar. Creo que cuando
interinstitutional
uno aporta, tiene las
links and
puertas abiertas
liaisons? I believe that
en el
when you
resto. O sea,
contribute
siempre
something, the
vayamos
doors
con
will
esa
be open to
mentalidad de
you.
qué puedo
So
ofrecer
let's
yo
have
a
this
los
mentality.
demás.
What can I
Y
offer
les aseguro que el
everyone
universo
else?
escucha y el
And
universo es
I
así,
can
lo que
assure you that
damos
the universe
recibimos.
listens.
Y
What you
crear
give to the
productos y
universe is what you get.
proyectos
So generating products and projects
con materiales locales, con
with
recursos
local
locales que
materials,
beneficien lo
with
local
local
y
resources
poder
that benefit
vender
the
afuera
local
a un
level and being
precio
able to
mayor.
sell outside at a
Creo que
greater
ese es el
price.
camino de cualquier
I
innovación,
think
emprendimiento
that is the
que
idea behind
que
any
pueda ser
innovation, behind
sostenible a
any
través del
product that may
tiempo.
be
Porque
sustainable
como le decía
over
Rodrigo,
time.
tenemos
Because
que
like
buscar
Rodrigo was
mercados que nos
saying,
van a
we
pagar
have
lo que
to
necesitamos que
look
nos
for markets
paguen
that
para
will
poder
pay us the
mantener
price that
esas
we need them to
estructuras que
pay
ya
us so
hemos
we
formado
can
acá
maintain these
y poder
structures that we've
seguir
already set up here and continue to
siendo de beneficio y causando
continue
impacto
to benefit and
social,
causing a positive
ambiental y
social,
económico.
environmental, economic impact
Escuchamos a
in the
Pili
places
Luna,
where we come from.
directora ejecutiva y
We
fundadora
just
de
heard
Voz
Pili Luna, Executive
Honduras,
Director
también
of
a
Voz
Rodrigo
Honduras, and
Tona, quien es director
Rodrigo
ejecutivo
Tona,
de
the
Ternova de El
CEO of
Salvador. Y bueno,
Ternova
pues
of El
de verdad que
Salvador.
nos están compartiendo muchísimo acerca de
And
cómo
you have
innovar,
shared a lot about how
especialmente en los
to
negocios. Y
innovate
esta
in
creo que es una gran
business.
reflexión
I
que nos
believe
deja este
that this
cuarto
is
encuentro regional de
a
Sí que Emprende.
very good
Así que
idea,
muy
a great idea
brevemente
that
les
this
quiero
fourth
que en un
regional
minuto
Seek
nos puedan
Emprende
compartir también sus
forum is sharing.
reflexiones
And I
finales
also want
para
everyone,
dejar
I would
ya
like to ask
pues
our
esta conversación,
speakers to
pero
give us
ojalá
your
más
final
preguntas para el
words.
resto de la
And I hope
audiencia
that there
para que
can
no
also
vayamos
be
con
more
este
questions
mensaje
from the
motivador,
audience so
pero
that we
también
can leave
del
with this very
reto que nos
innovative
lleva a pensar
and
otras formas de
inspiring
hacerlo mejor,
message.
de hacerlo distinto y por
The
supuesto
challenge is to
de
do
cambiar el
things
mundo,
better,
que
to
eso es lo
do
que
things
queda
differently, and to
claro
change
acá,
the world.
que hay una
I think
visión de que
that
el mundo
is
es
the main
posible
idea.
y
There's a
ustedes
vision
están
that
apoyando para que
together
esto así
we can
sea, así que
overcome.
les pediría una
So I would
reflexión de un
like
minuto para
to
que vayamos
ask
concluyendo.
each one of you a 1 minute
Empezamos con Rodrigo, ¿les
final
parece?
message, and we'll start with Rodrigo.
Bueno, primero que nada, muchísimas gracias por la invitación.
First of all,
Pili,
thank you very much for the
encantado de estar
invitation, and
contigo.
Billy, it's a pleasure to
Yo voy
be
a
here
hacer
with you.
una reflexión
Now,
al
I'll
revés. Fíjate,
close
Pili, nosotros
with
tenemos 15 años
with a different
de
type
haber
of
sido pioneros en el tema
message.
del
We
cuidado de la
have been
tortuga marina.
pioneers in
Y por
caring
ende
for sea
tenemos una
turtles for
relación
about
sumamente
15 years,
estrecha con
and
una
we have very
comunidad
tight-knit
marítimo costera
relationship
que es bien
with a
importante
marine
para
coastal
nosotros porque
community,
ahí
which is
también
very
están todos
important
los
for us because
manglares
that's where we
y es donde
have
se atrapa la
many
mayor cantidad de
manglars.
carbono. Entonces, te invito a que entonces
So
después de
I
que te
invite
expandas en
you
Costa Rica nos
to,
expandamos juntos
after
y
you
echamos la
finish in
mano
Costa
para hacer
Rica,
en El
you can maybe
Salvador.
come down here and
Y
we
creo que
can
esa es
work
la
together in
reflexión,
El
¿no?
Salvador.
El
I think
participar, el estar
that's my
activo,
message,
el buscar, el
participating,
estar ahora en
active,
foros, irse uno a challenges,
participating
irse
in
a premios de
fora,
empresas,
going
te vas a terminar enriqueciendo
challenges,
como persona.
participating
Y
in
de
company
verdad, los
awards.
emprendedores,
You'll
si algo
continue
que
to
no
make
podemos
more
hacer es
contacts. And
quedarnos como
entrepreneurs,
vencidos,
the
porque
only
lo que
thing
les
we can't do
garantizo
is give up,
es
because
que se
what
van a dar
I
en la trompa, se van a dar en la
guarantee
cabeza, se van a dar en las
is
rodillas, se
that
van a dar en
you'll run
todos
into
lados, no
brick
va a ser fácil,
walls, you'll fall,
¿verdad? Pero lo
you'll
que no
rise
podemos
again.
aceptar es
It
el no
won't
y
be
tenemos que
easy,
buscar el cómo,
but
el
we
cómo, el cómo y
cannot
siempre va a haber alguien
accept
ahí con quien nos vamos a
giving
refugiar.
up. There will always always be someone that we can partner up with. So we need to be consistent, coherent, aware of the skills and capacities that we have. Sometimes you have to stop, but then you get going again. So once again, it was a pleasure, and we're going to leave our contact info if you want to get in touch with the Innovation Lab. and we're at your service with
Muchísimas
anything that we
gracias,
may help
Pili.
with.
Un minutito,
Thank you very
veo
much,
que ya
Pili.
Roxana salió
1 minute.
también a hacernos
We see
su
that
llamada de
Roxana is up on the
atención.
screen now
Más
to
que
tell us
todo
the
decir
time is up.
gracias Rodrigo. Ven,
Sure.
ya de
But I
aquí
just wanted
soy
to
yo,
thank
un
you
nuevo
all. So thank you, Rodrigo.
emprendimiento,
You see, a new
una,
entrepreneurship just
un,
came
un,
about
un
out of all this.
vínculo
A
entre El
new
Salvador y
tie between
Honduras,
El
países
Salvador and
hermanos,
Honduras,
para
brother
seguir causando
nations,
impacto.
to
Y creo
continue
que
to
agradecer el
cause and
espacio,
impact. And I would like to thank
agradecer todo lo que
you
hemos
for this
aprendido, todo
opportunity, for
lo
this
que nos hemos
space, for everything that
compartido.
we've learned and everything that we've
Y nada más
shared.
eso.
And
Gracias, estamos a la
well,
orden.
that basically, thank you. We'll be at your service,
Adelante.
and
Yo siempre digo,
let's keep moving
aprendete,
forward. I always
desaprendete y
say,
reinventarte.
learn, unlearn, and reinvent.
Realmente todas y todos
Those
somos
are
los
the
más
three most
agradecidos
important
por todas
things,
estas
of
reflexiones
course,
que nos
and
han
we are
dejado.
very grateful
Nos queda
for the
clarísimo que la
messages that you've
inteligencia
given us.
colectiva
It's
y
clear
por
that
supuesto que el
collective
trabajo en conjunto,
intelligence and, of course,
colaborar, las
working
oportunidades de
together,
ir hacia
collaborating,
afuera, ¿verdad?
the
En
opportunities
lugar
of
de
also going
echarnos
abroad,
flechitas, sino más bien conectándonos
instead of
y
just
viendo
staying
cómo
in your own
podemos
field, but also
entonces
connect yourself with other
aprovechar las
people.
oportunidades es lo
That
que
will help you to
también
seize
nos lleva a la
opportunities. And that's
innovación social,
also
no
what will lead us
solamente
to social
es
innovation. It's not just about
pensar en generar un negocio y en
thinking
generar
to
riqueza, sino más
generate a
bien cómo
business
todas y todos
generating
estamos
wealth,
bien y
but
así
rather
todas y
how
todos vamos
everyone is
creciendo
doing
como humanidad.
well and
Roxana,
how
muchas
we can
gracias
all
por la
grow.
invitación y de mi
Roxana, thank you very
parte
much for the
pues quedo
invitation.
muy
And
contenta
on
de lo
my
que
end,
nos
well,
compartimos en este
I'm
espacio.
very glad for everything that we've shared in this space.
Definitivamente, muchas gracias,
Of course,
Rodrigo,
definitely.
Pili.
Thank you very much,
Realmente yo he
Rodrigo,
aprendido mucho
Pili.
de ustedes,
I
he aprendido
myself
mucho de
have learned a
Janina
lot from you
esta
all and also
tarde,
from
en esta
Janina this
casi hora que
afternoon
hemos estado
in this
aquí.
almost
Muy
hour
interesantes
that
todas
we've
las
been
preguntas del
talking
público
together.
y como
Very
ya
interesting
vieron ahí
questions
en mi
from the
comentario,
audience.
pues los
And
muy
as you
bien
saw,
respondidas
some of those
y
comments,
conforme con todo
very well
lo que
answered
ustedes
questions as
nos
well.
participaron,
I think with everything that you've
y nos
shared.
compartieron.
And
Así
thank you
es
for
que
everything
Rodrigo y
that
Pili
you
quedamos
told us about. So
conectadas,
Rodrigo and
todas y
Pili,
todos los que
we're all
estuvimos
connected,
presentes
everyone that was
escuchándoles, también
present,
con Janina.
listening to you, and also
Créanme que los van a
Janina.
buscar por LinkedIn
Believe me
para que
that they'll
puedan
look you up on
conectar con todos
LinkedIn
las
so
personas que
that you
estuvimos
can
por aquí.
connect with
Así
all
es que
the
en
people
nombre de
that heard
Sempromipe,
the words you had
en
to
nombre de
say.
todo
On
el
behalf of
equipo
Sempromipe, on behalf of
organizador
the
y de la
entire
Dirección Ejecutiva
team,
Interina, pues les damos a
and of the
ustedes
interim
muchas
executive
gracias.
directorate, we wanted to thank you very
Ya
much.
estamos casi que
I
por
believe we're
finalizar toda la
almost
jornada. Solo
at the
falta
very end of the
una
session. We
última
have just
actividad que
one more
tenemos, que
activity
es la
left,
ronda de
which
inversión
is the
pública. Así
public
es que si se
investment
pueden
round. So
quedar
if you can
y
just
si
stay
han ingresado a la plataforma, pues bienvenidos
and you're
sean
in the
para que nos
platform,
puedan
then
escuchar los
welcome, so
emprendimientos
that you can
que
listen to
han
the
pasado
entrepreneurships
justo
that have
una media hora antes que nosotros empezaran, ellos empezaron.
that started
En 3
about half
rondas
an hour
privadas
prior to us
y en
starting
temas de
in three
turismo, en
private
temas
rounds
sociales y en
in
temas
topics
fintech.
regarding
Así es
tourism,
que
social, and
tenemos
fintech.
allí
So
a
we
20
have
emprendimientos que han
20
presentado su
different
pitch y
entrepreneurships that
y
have
que
given their
bueno, van a estar
pitches,
presentes en la
and
siguiente ronda de
they will be
inversión
present in the
pública.
next
Así es que
public
los
investment
invitamos a
round.
todas y
So
todos
we
que
would
pues
like to
se
invite you
desconecten de
all
la
to
plataforma
please
del
don't log
evento
off
del
the
cuarto
event
encuentro Sí que
platform
Emprende.
just
Y
yet. This
nuevamente,
fourth Sí que
Rodrigo, Pili y
Emprende
Janina, mil
meeting,
gracias en nombre de
and
Sempromipe
Rodrigo,
del
Pili,
mío propio.
Janina,
Muchas gracias.
many
Feliz
thanks
tarde
on
para
behalf of
todas y todos.
Promipi
Nos vemos al
and on my
ratito.
own behalf. Thank you very much. See you soon.